5:44 a.m., the Gulf of Oman, USS Abraham Lincoln carrier strike group, inbound to the Persian Gulf. Iran just launched a ballistic missile salvo, 8 missiles simultaneous, aimed at the carrier's escort screen. Welcome to Navy Beacon, where we break down the operations that define sea power. A carrier strike group's escort is not an afterthought. It is a carefully engineered defensive architecture. The Arleigh Burke destroyers and Ticonderoga cruiser that ring an aircraft carrier are not there simply to accompany it. Each one is a node in an integrated air defense network, a web of radar sensors, missile interceptors, and communications links that collectively create a defensive bubble extending hundreds of miles in every direction. The system is tested constantly, in exercises, in simulations, in the quiet analytical work of wargame assessments. Iranian ballistic missiles had been modeled against carrier strike group defenses in dozens of classified wargames. The general conclusion, discussed in open-source academic military literature and in classified assessments, was that a small salvo of ballistic missiles against a prepared, alerted carrier strike group would likely be defeated. The key word was prepared. The key question was always, what does alerted actually mean? On the morning in question, USS Abraham Lincoln was transiting inbound through the Gulf of Oman, eastbound to westbound, approaching the Strait of Hormuz entry point. The strike group had received a general threat advisory 48 hours earlier, elevated IRGC ballistic missile unit activity at 2 sites in southern Iran. The advisory was designated WatchCon Bravo, 1 level below active threat. At WatchCon Bravo, the strike group's Aegis systems were in active search mode, standard. Their standard missile inventories were at standard ready-to-fire status. What WatchCon Bravo did not generate was a continuous airborne early warning presence directly over the strike group. The E-2D Advanced Hawkeye, the carrier's airborne radar station, was operating, but at a standard patrol altitude and vector that provided its primary radar coverage to the northeast. Covering the land approaches, the missiles came from the southeast, from a mobile launcher unit that had driven to a pre-surveyed firing position in the Makran coastal range of southern Iran, a mountainous area along the coast of the Gulf of Oman, below the primary sensor coverage of the E-2D's current patrol vector. The launcher was a Shahab-3 variant, an upgraded medium-range ballistic missile with a range of approximately 1,300 kilometers and a CEP, circular error probable, of around 250 meters. Not precision-guided, but a 750-kilogram conventional warhead landing within 250 meters of a destroyer has consequences. Iran had 8 missiles on 8 separate mobile launchers. They had driven to their firing positions in a 16-hour window, individually, on routes that crossed commercial road networks, using timing designed to avoid the satellite overflight windows that U.S. intelligence had mapped from years of observing Iranian missile exercise patterns. The last launcher reached its firing position at 5:31 a.m. All 8 missiles launched at 5:44 a.m. The Aegis systems on USS Lady Gulf, the Ticonderoga cruiser in the strike group, picked up the ballistic missile launches at 5:44 and 9 seconds a.m. 9 seconds after launch, ballistic missiles at launch generate a distinctive thermal bloom. Space-based infrared sensors, the Defense Support Program satellites and their follow-on systems, are specifically designed to detect them. The detection was automatic, immediate, and relayed to the strike group's tactical network within seconds. What the detection system could not do in those seconds was provide the missile's targeting solution. 8 launches, simultaneous, from a dispersed position on the coast. The tracking solution for each missile required the first 30 to 40 seconds of flight to calculate with accuracy. The incoming missiles were in their boost phase, still climbing, still accelerating, still being tracked. The strike group had approximately 6 minutes to impact. In mid-course phase, the missiles would be at altitudes exceeding 150 kilometers, trackable, interceptable, but requiring the right interceptors. Standard Missile 3, the SM-3 Block IB and Block 2A variants, is designed specifically for ballistic missile defense in the mid-course and terminal phase. It flies to intercept altitude, releases a kinetic kill vehicle, and destroys the target through direct collision. USS Lady Gulf carried SM-3 Block 2A missiles. So did one of the accompanying destroyers, USS Roosevelt. Here is where the problem became acute. 8 missiles. 4 confirmed initial tracks. The tracking data was fragmenting. 3 of the 8 launch signatures had separated into ambiguous tracks. Were they 1 missile each? Were some of them decoys? Iran had demonstrated, in multiple exercises, the use of decoy re-entry vehicles. The Aegis battle management system was processing track data at maximum throughput. At 5:45:30 a.m., 90 seconds after launch, the track ambiguity was partially resolved. 6 confirmed tracks, 2 still ambiguous. The targeting of SM-3 interceptors requires a confirmed track. Ambiguous tracks cannot be engaged with SM-3. The Aegis coordinator aboard USS Leyte Gulf, Commander Patricia Nguyen, the ship's tactical action officer, was managing the engagement queue in real time. She had confirmed firing solutions for 6 tracks. She had SM-3 inventory for 7 intercepts. She held 1 back. The 2 ambiguous tracks, which might be 2 missiles, or might be 1 missile with a decoy, were not yet ready for engagement. The first SM-3 launched at 5:46 and 14 seconds a.m. In the next 90 seconds, 6 SM-3s were in the air, 3 from Leyte Gulf, 3 from Roosevelt. In the Combat Direction Center aboard USS Abraham Lincoln, the carrier's commanding officer, Captain Michael Hayward, was watching a display that showed 6 interceptors chasing 8 potential threats through the upper atmosphere. The 6 confirmed targets were being addressed. The 2 ambiguous contacts were still being resolved. At 5:47:22 a.m., 3 minutes and 8 seconds after the Iranian launch, 2 ambiguous contacts resolved. Both were missiles, not decoys. 8 missiles total, 6 in the process of being intercepted, 2 without assigned interceptors. Commander Nguyen had 1 SM-3 held in reserve. She had 2 unengaged targets, 1 SM-3 for 2 missiles. The mathematics did not work. This is the decision point that every ballistic missile defense wargame eventually reaches. You have more targets than interceptors. You have to choose which target gets the defensive missile. The 2 unengaged tracks were on diverging trajectories. One was heading for the center of the formation, the carrier's approximate position. One was heading for the Escort's eastern edge, where USS Stout, an Arleigh Burke destroyer, was operating. Commander Nguyen had to make a decision in 45 seconds about which target to engage and which to allow to continue inbound, accepting that the terminal defense, the ship's own SM-2 and Phalanx, would be the last line against the unengaged contact. She assigned the final SM-3 to the contact heading for the carrier. The contact heading for USS Stout was passed to terminal defense. What would you do in that moment? Comment below, protect the carrier or protect the escort? Because her decision was based on one principle that ballistic missile defense doctrine makes explicit. The carrier is the strategic center of gravity. Losing an escort is a tactical loss. Losing a carrier is a strategic catastrophe. The final SM-3 launched at 5:47:51 a.m. It was assigned to the contact tracking toward Lincoln's position. The intercept results, confirmed by post-engagement radar and satellite assessment, were as follows. Of the 6 SM-3s launched against 6 confirmed tracks, 5 intercepts confirmed. 1 miss. The SM-3 kinetic kill vehicle released cleanly, but its terminal tracking solution degraded in the final phase, and the incoming warhead passed within 40 meters of the kill vehicle without interception. That warhead continued inbound. It entered the terminal phase over the Gulf of Oman at 5:49 a.m. USS Leyte Gulf's SM, 2 standard missiles, and then Phalanx engaged in sequence. The SM-2 intercepted the re-entry vehicle at 14 kilometers altitude. Proximity fuse, fragmentation kill. The warhead did not land. The 7th missile, the one assigned the final SM-3, was intercepted cleanly at high altitude, confirmed kill. The 8th missile, heading for USS Stout, entered the terminal phase. THAAD was not within engagement range. USS Stout's SM-6 in ballistic missile defense mode engaged at terminal approach. Miss. The Phalanx on USS Stout, operating in a mode not originally designed for ballistic re-entry vehicle interception, engaged at 4 kilometers altitude. The fragmentation burst from the Phalanx's 20mm rounds did not destroy the re-entry vehicle, but it altered its ballistic path. The warhead impacted the Gulf of Oman 380 meters from USS Stout's hull. The water column from the explosion, a 750-kilogram warhead impacting the Gulf at terminal velocity, was visible from Stout's bridge. Debris from the explosion impacted the ship's hull at the waterline. No penetration, no flooding. 6 sailors on the exposed weather decks were knocked down by the blast overpressure. 2 were treated for lacerations, 4 for concussive effects. USS Stout remained fully operational. 7 of 8 Iranian ballistic missiles had been defeated by the layered Aegis defense architecture. One warhead had impacted 380 meters from a U.S. Navy destroyer. The after-action assessment took 2 weeks. Its key findings were classified TS/SCI, top secret, sensitive compartmented information. However, sources familiar with the proceedings have described the core findings. First, the track ambiguity that created the one interceptor for 2 missiles problem had been anticipated in simulations. The Iranian launch technique, simultaneous from dispersed positions, with deliberate timing of the final 2 launches to complicate track resolution, was assessed as operationally sophisticated, not improvised, planned. Second, the SM-3 miss, the one that required the SM-2 to engage in the terminal phase, was traced to a software parameter in the kill vehicle's terminal phase seeker. A known issue. A patch had been in development. It had not yet been deployed to the fleet. A software patch. One software patch that wasn't deployed nearly allowed a ballistic warhead to reach a carrier strike group. Third, the Phalanx deflection of the 8th warhead was not, in the assessment's language, a reliable defensive outcome. The Phalanx had performed beyond its designed parameters, in a different geometry, a different warhead angle, a slightly different approach. It does not deflect. It does not intercept. USS Stout had been 380 meters from a 750-kilogram warhead. 380 meters, en water. Iran's public statement, released 8 hours after the incident, made no mention of ballistic missiles. Iranian state media reported that IRGC forces had conducted a defensive warning exercise in response to aggressive American naval provocation in the Gulf of Oman. No country at the United Nations officially acknowledged that Iran had fired 8 ballistic missiles at a U.S. carrier strike group in international waters. The U.S. State Department issued a brief statement. U.S. Navy forces successfully defended against an attack by Iranian ballistic missiles. All vessels remain fully operational. 2 sentences. For an engagement that involved 8 ballistic missiles, 7 intercepts, a software patch that wasn't deployed, a Phalanx performing beyond its design parameters, and a destroyer that ended up 380 meters from a warhead, the Lincoln strike group transited the Strait of Hormuz on schedule, 26 hours after the engagement. Somewhere in southern Iran, 8 mobile launcher vehicles drove back to their dispersal sites on commercial road networks. Iran had demonstrated something that day that no public statement would acknowledge. Its ballistic missiles could reach a carrier strike group in the Gulf of Oman. 7 out of 8 had been defeated. 1 had come close enough to matter. The math for the next salvo was already being recalculated. 16 missiles instead of 8. 32 instead of 16. The Aegis system's inventory was finite. The IRGC's production line was not. Stay vigilant, stay informed. This is Navy Beacon, and we'll see you in the next one.